Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another one of our discipline dialogue sessions. My name is Mark Schneider. I am the AVP of K-14 Academic Initiatives and Support. And joining me today is Bess. Bess, I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself before we jump in with our discipline dialogue.
Hi, I'm Beth Camara. I teach in the School of IT at the Columbus campus. Currently, I'm teaching a high school program, a dual enrollment high school program at the Columbus Signature Academy called the IT Pathways. And I will share more with you about that a little later.
Yeah, thank you, Bess.
Mhm.
The IT Pathway, as a former Columbus K-14 director, very familiar with it. Great program, lots of awesome things going on there. A model for the whole state, truly. Now, with that being said, let's just jump into a couple of our questions here that we have kind of as talking points for you and the whole group here. Is there anything specifically that you would cite as a best practice for dual credit instructors that are teaching the handful of IT programs that we have across the state?
Sure. So one of the big things I like to make sure that we're teaching our students is troubleshooting and research. I want to make sure that we're not just teaching them to follow steps in a set of directions or from a textbook, but teaching them how to actually go through the troubleshooting process and solve problems and be able to use their resources and find reliable resources and documentation and that sort of thing. And making sure they know how to take documentation, technical documentation is important. As far as the software development courses, any courses with software development, in our first course, we've been using Python. I want to share that it's more important that they learn the basics of the logic and algorithms, pseudocode, learn about flowcharts more so than a particular language. But Python's a good one to start out with. As far as databases go, Microsoft Access is a good choice. I know whenever they are getting into data analytics, when they start getting into the upper level courses, it turns more into the data analytics side, how they take that information and use it to make decisions. But in that beginning database class, we really want them to understand the relationships between databases and how that works. As far as like the IT support, hardware, software type stuff, we are using materials that teach to the CompTIA A+, Network Plus, Security Plus certifications. In the A+, it is getting more security heavy and more networking. So in that beginning hardware, software, or IT support class or whatever it might be called, we need to make sure we're covering some basics of networking and security, because that, even though that A+ certification exam is entry level, it's getting to be a lot more rigorous than it used to be. And then the only other thing I would add to is also, I know some school systems are still using Chromebooks. The Chromebooks in our program don't work that well. Some of the software that we need, like virtual machines and things like that we use, don't run on the Chromebooks well.
I will add to here in the CompTIA A+ certification, not being an IT person myself, I don't know what all that means. I know I say it all the time in different meetings, but we do have a skills training available to high school teachers across the state this summer and for the next school year, really. But if you know of any high school teachers that would like to get CompTIA A+ certification and currently do not have that certification, it is being offered 100% for free through Ivy Tech Skills Training or Career Link. this summer and fall. So if you just reach out to your K-14 director at your local Ivy Tech campus, they can get you in touch with the person that is coordinating the training. Each campus is doing it a little bit differently, so I can't tell you the exact time frames of when it's going on and whether it's hybrid, virtual, in person, any of those types of things. But there's a lot of different ways it's being offered across the state by Ivy Tech, and it's being covered 100% through a grant this summer. So do keep that in mind. Reach out to your K-14 director. You can also reach out to me if you're interested in that. I will put my name in the chat, I should say. And you can copy me on that email or just reach out to me directly and I'll get you in touch with the correct people. So with that being said, I kind of touched upon this a little bit with that right there, Bess, but is there any other sort of professional development opportunities that are available to our IT instructors, whether that be something on campus at Ivy Tech? IT lends itself to a lot of different professional development being available to our instructors through third-party sources as well. Anything, everything. Do you have any suggestions for our instructors?
Yeah, well, of course, instructors are always welcome to sit in on our credit or non-credit courses. And of course, with CompTIA and our certifying bodies where we teach for the certifications, teachers can get free vouchers to take those certs. You can also, generally, you can just contact the department chair of your local Ivy Tech campus, and they can get you connected with materials that we use in class. For example, with the CompTIA stuff, we generally use lab sims for Security Plus stuff. There are some InfoSec labs. So we can generally get you connected if you're planning on teaching one of those dual credit classes and taking one of those certs. We can generally get you hooked up with the study materials.
Yeah, all good things available. Yeah, and just to state it in case there is any confusion, but it's fairly self-evident. I think one of your best resources that you can always reach out to is your local program chair. Everyone in these situations, it's we desire the most professional collaboration possible between the dual credit instructor and the program chair. For all intents and purposes, a dual credit instructor is viewed the same as our adjunct instructors that we have on campus. And all those supports and everything that we ask of our adjuncts and everything we give to our adjuncts, we want to give to the fullest extent to our dual credit instructors. And as a former high school teacher myself, I think there's also a lot of things that the higher education world can learn from high school instructors. I think there's a lot of, it needs to be a two-way communication. Obviously, there's a lot of content knowledge that can be exchanged, but I think a lot of different pedagogy and, learning styles. High school teachers are experts at all that, and I think higher ed can learn a lot from it. So keep that in mind. We're always open to any suggestions that you have. So next here, Bess, I can probably guess what the topic will be, but is there anything specific that you'd want to mention for maybe a hot topic in the field, something that's emerging, or different types of things that are popping up here as of late that maybe it's relatively new in the last year or so that wasn't a thing maybe 3 or 4 years ago?
Well, our IoT program's expanding, and of course, there's always security stuff going on. I mean, all you have to do is look at, the news any time of day, and there's something different going on there. I will say that in our information technology support program, we have a CT that is 29 credits. It's for an IT help desk CT, and that's the IT Pathways dual enrollment program that we're doing in Columbus. But we're going to the curriculum committee is working on creating a second track, if you will, for IoT, Internet of Things. So you might look for that in the next year. I'm hoping to get that on the NLPS and dual credit offerings. But right now, we just have one class that teaches IoT in our programs, and we're looking to separate that or expand it into two classes and make it a CT track. So again, that's all in very early proposal stages. So, but you might keep a lookout for that in the next year or so. Oh, we can't hear you, Mark.
Amateur move by my part. I've done
That's
like
okay.
8 of these, and that's the first time I've been on mute.
Uh,
I was hoping to be perfect throughout all 20 of them. So close. Um, so moving on then, are there any like open access OER type materials that instructors might be able to utilize, or perhaps something in a course shell? Of course, we can't always share everything that's in our course shells for on-campus students because that's being supported by tuition to pay different third-party providers, the virtual textbooks and everything like that. And with dual credit being free, we can't do that as well. But oftentimes there's a lot of OER type stuff that can help supplement that or even be better than what's in those course shells for on-campus students.
yeah. So one place to get started is in the dual credit professional development modules Mark, you know, the ones that we've been working on. I don't know when they'll be available to the K-12 teachers, but I put in the one for School of IT, we have several documents called toolkits. There's a toolkit for each one of our programs: cybersecurity, IT support, cloud, so on and so forth. And in those toolkit documents that I put in that professional development, it does include things like free trainings or websites to use as sources, other materials where you can learn things. Um, and especially with security, there's always something new coming out, some new website, or it seems like I do something different in my classes every semester. So, keeping in touch with your local campus faculty, Ivy Tech faculty is always good too. But just to get started, if you look at those toolkit documents that will be in your professional development module, um, that'll give you a good handful to get started with.
Yeah, and just for everyone's knowledge, the new professional development modules, which are being finalized right now. Basically, in the spring, we develop and create the professional development modules for next academic year. We'll launch them around Labor Day or so. Each campus has a little leeway as to when they want to launch it. We'll have them available probably the end of August or so, but that is the very busiest time of year for almost everyone between prereqs and student registration and course building and everything else that goes on during that time. So that will be available after Labor Day or so, and then you'll have through the spring to complete that. I also want to put in the chat here a resource for everyone that we're still developing, but has been making some good progress. We have sample syllabi that dual credit instructors can now utilize. In the past, and at the very bottom of that Google folder I put in there, you can find the syllabus template that we have for the last handful of academic years, where it's just put your course in here, your email, your high school, all of those different types of things in there. We need you to put the grading scale, things like that. Now we're having a sample syllabus template for each course being provided. Oftentimes we'll have, maybe there might be an issue on the grading scale or the course objectives and the course outline of record, and making sure all of that stuff is put in correctly. It still will need, you'll still have to put the calendar in there. That's usually the thing that takes the longest amount of time. But we're trying to provide a course by course example for everyone to help, make it a little bit easier on all of our dual credit instructors. One of the most frequent questions we get is, why do I have to do a syllabus? The simple answer is that that's what we require for our on-campus students, our on-campus instructors, is to provide a syllabus. And so that's required of all of our dual credit instructors as well. Our accreditation body requires it too. And then finally, there have been a handful of situations. This always pops up, a few times a year. Student is transferring or going to a different institution. Since IT is not part of our core transfer library, if a student wants to go to, say, IU or Purdue or some out-of-state college, and they are trying to get their IT credit, say the INFM 109 credit to transfer to a different institution, a syllabus is often what is needed from that other institution to determine if that credit can be awarded, or in what manner it would be awarded at other institutions. So that happens fairly frequently, and so we need those on record. If there's no record of a syllabus submission, then we can't provide, or usually that institution will not grant transfer credit. So just keep that in mind as to why sometimes that gets brought up. So with all of, oh, go ahead, Beth. Mhm.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention one other thing about, there's been a lot of talk about AI and ChatGPT and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And I know for English teachers, that's a nightmare. But in School of IT and in the IT field, our stance we're kind of taking on it at the moment is that we don't want to dissuade students from using it because it's already out there. They're going to be using it. We want to encourage its use, but encourage its use responsibly and ethically. For example, we don't want students to have ChatGPT write their code for them for a program, but might they start with something from ChatGPT and then, change it up, customize it, make it do some other things, that's probably okay. So as far as AI, we don't want to be scared of it. We don't want our students to be scared of it, but we do want them to know how to use it responsibly and ethically.
Yeah, and I would just add too, as a recent graduate student, I use ChatGPT not for my papers, of course, but for the literature review sections. Instead of just typing in random phrases and searching on Google Scholar, all these different networks, all these different research articles, I would just say, type in ChatGPT. Can you provide a list of research articles over issue X and theory Y, and then it would spit out, 7 or 8 of them. You still have to read them. You still have to kind of break them down. But it saved me several hours worth of work of having to just do all that other
Yeah,
type.
that's what we want. We want them to use it just as another tool, but not rely on it.
Yeah. Use it for good, not for evil. So
Exactly.
the question about transfer or courses not transferring automatically. So the state of Indiana has what's called the core transfer library. And I'll put that in the chat here for everyone. So there are a bunch of courses, generally gen ed courses, that automatically transfer freely from one public institution in Indiana to another. So just using our most basic example, English 111, English composition will transfer automatically from Ivy Tech to IU Bloomington as W131, their English composition. And all the public institutions, whatever their versions are, transfers automatically from it. There's a big curriculum review, huge layers of bureaucracy to make sure everything lines up automatically, and it's set up to transfer through fairly quickly. With tech courses and just career and technical education courses by their nature changing somewhat quickly, and things like that, usually the articulation agreements, instead of it being through this broad network like we have with the commission and automatic transfer among all the public institutions, each institution has to do an articulation agreement on a one-to-one level. So IU and Ivy Tech have to have an agreement on what it is, or IU and Purdue, or Purdue and Ivy Tech. All those have to go on at that level right there. So keeping that in your mind, these courses will transfer, but what they will transfer for, we cannot easily articulate in every situation. It just depends on what agreement's been set up. We are working on a TSAP program with IT, which is a 2+2 agreement, which will help finalize a lot of the IT stuff with the transfer agreements. That is, I believe, is still in the final stages of approvals, but it's a long way of saying it. Just since it's outside of the gen eds, there's a little bit more that goes to it to make sure the credits transfer. And IT, just by its nature, I mean, I just know in my time here with the college in the last 6 years, our IT offerings have changed quite a bit. And even though the course disciplines, the prefixes are, you still have INFM or SDEV and all these different programs, the course numbers have changed fairly frequently compared to others just because the development in the field. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so we are at the Q&A part here. I already answered one of them. Does anyone have any other questions that we can help answer? Well, while you are thinking about that, I'm going to pull up one more time and put in the chat for anyone. If you did not fill out the Google form, please do so that way we can make sure you get your PGP points as you will need them for your license renewal. And then also want to just give everyone another reminder, Ivy Tech is offering free courses to high school students this summer. So that goes from incoming freshmen, so current 8th graders who will be or rising freshmen, they are eligible all the way through graduating seniors. So if a high school senior is graduating this May, they can also take courses with Ivy Tech for free. And if they want to take one course, that's fine. If you have a senior who wants to get a head start on their offerings for next year and take a few classes for free that they'd have to pay for otherwise, they can take 3 or 4 classes as well. That's all eligible for students. So last call for any questions that anyone might have.
Mark, I put my email in the chat. Anybody else, if you think of something later or looking for a resource or something like that, you can always feel free to reach out to me as well.
Yeah, and yeah, Best is a great resource. Your program chairs are a great resource as well. I do see another question. Yeah, so textbooks and anything that basically requires a purchase that like we would have on campus, all the online materials, the virtual textbooks for our on-campus students, that's all paid for through tuition dollars. With dual credit being free, that's not something, a resource we can provide. There's copyright issues, obviously payment. How would we provide that for 90,000 students for free? Things like that. OER resources are available, and then reach out to your local program chair. There are many free options that your program chair can help supplement and oftentimes provide at a level that's even better than what the textbooks are that we use on campus or are being used at a high school. But the high school is responsible for providing the textbook if there is a requirement for a textbook in a class. Okay, well, one last thing. I just want to thank everyone for being a dual credit instructor with Ivy Tech, but just being a dual credit instructor in general. All of you are high school teachers doing great work with your students. Being a dual credit instructor is an extra added responsibility on top of everything that you're doing as a high school teacher. And you're doing it in almost every case out of the goodness of your heart because it provides extra opportunities for your high school students. That does require extra work, whether it's submitting syllabi or doing site visits, onboarding, professional development modules, things like that. That's all extra stuff that you have to do, and you're doing it for your students. It is very much appreciated. It does not go unnoticed, and we just want to thank you for all of your hard work. If you do ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you however best we can. With that being said, thank you all and have a nice rest of your day.
Thank you.